In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace your serpentine belt idler pulley. Let's get started. To drain the coolant, you'll notice that on the front driver's side, you have a little drain plug with a Phillips head cut out for the radiator. So if you stick a screwdriver up here, turn it counterclockwise to loosen it, have a collection bucket ready to catch all the fluid. There you go. We'll just let that drain. At the top, we have to get rid of all these wires here and this hose that runs across. So pull it up, remove it from its retainer. Okay, move it out of the way. This right here is a vacuum hose. It's a small one, so be careful not to break it. Remove the main power wire. And remove this rubber piece. Next, I want to remove the upper radiator shroud, and to do that, I will just start over here and work my way to the other side. I want to get off anything that is bolted to it, such as this power steering fluid reservoir. Use an 8mm socket and remove both of the retaining bolts. Now you can push this away. To get a little bit more clearance for this reservoir, I want to take out the upper radiator hose. To do that, you need a pick or a pocket screwdriver. I'm going to choose a pick because it'll be easier. And with that pick, all you have to do is just pull out on this retaining clip. Make sure you don't lose it, because sometimes these go flying and you're going to want to save it. Looks like the clip can't come out completely, so I'm going to take out this 8mm bolt so I can kind of maneuver the shroud out of the way. There we go. Now I can take this out completely, wiggle the radiator hose, and break it free off of the radiator. Now be careful because this fitting is plastic, so you don't want to tap it with a hammer if it's stuck. Just work it back and forth. If you break this, you're going to need a new hose. Okay. This is pretty tight on here. Okay, try to get it off completely. Now back to this tank, pull up on it. It's just clipped into the upper shroud as a like a push down clip. So if you pull up on it, there we go, it unhooks and you can move it away. You also have this line that's attached to it. You could take it off. I'm going to try and see if it gives me more room. It might not, but I think it's worth a shot. That's pretty good right there. We'll leave all of this as is. I have my battery removed so you can see, otherwise I could not get you a clear shot. But if you look straight down underneath that power steering reservoir, you'll see this 8mm bolt, which holds the upper to the lower fan shroud. Get yourself a long extension, sneak a socket down there, and let's remove it. Gonna have to block your view to take this out, but if you have a magnet, it's also a lot easier because you can come in from the top. There it is. Same on the other side, one bolt up top, one down there. This one will be easier to get to because there's no power steering reservoir in the way. On the back of the shroud, you also have this, which is bolted on with a 10mm bolt. Remove it. You could unplug it and disconnect the vacuum hose, but why disturb the connections when you can just remove the bolt? Pull it out of the way, leave it connected, and push it aside. Now pull up on the upper fan shroud, and you should be able to get it out of your way. There it is. Now from up top, you can see that as you spin the fan, it is actually not symmetrical all the way around. These blades right here are closer together, and if you keep spinning it, you'll get to a side that has a larger opening. That is called service mode, so that you can easily access the pulleys, the tensioner, and the belt without removing the fan assembly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to find the largest opening here, keep spinning it until you have it. You'll notice that right here, there's a large opening down here, and then this one is kind of like medium sized, so that you can work through that one and see through this one. So I'm going to stop right here. That down there is our tensioner, and it'll take a 3/8 drive extension to twist it. Slide your extension in here. You want to push down on it, so clockwise. That's bottomed out right there. Then you can slide your hand in here and pull the belt off of whatever pulley you can reach. For me, I think it happens to be the idler up here. Yep, and now you can let go. Once you let go, Watch out because your tool is going to come up higher than where you started. Remove it. Make sure you don't poke your radiator with your ratchet or any other tool that you might be using. Now grab your 15mm socket, and I have one of these shallow impact guns so I can fit it in here, but you can just use a ratchet and an extension and break that bolt free for the idler. Take it out, remove the idler, grab the new idler, slide it down into position, make sure it seats all the way, grab your bolt, start the bolt in, we'll bottom it out, and then of course we'll torque it. Snug this down, and then we'll torque it to 35 foot-pounds. That's it right there. Now there are two of them, as you can see. You would do the same exact thing to this one. It's the same part in order to replace it. And if you're going to replace one, I recommend replacing both because assuming that they were both installed at the same time, they are both equally old and worn. For this one, you either need a swivel adapter or a swivel head ratchet. Go ahead and break it free. Oops. There it is. Grab the new pulley and slide it over. Try to line it up with the bolt hole. Looks like I got it started. We'll thread it in. We'll bottom it out. The torque for this is also 35 foot-pounds, but I cannot fit my torque wrench in there, so I'm just going to have to tighten it by feel. But if you can, 35 foot-pounds is the torque. Okay, that's pretty tight right there. So here's the diagram on the screen of how the belt is routed. I'm going to speed up the process of me installing it because, to be honest, there's not a whole lot of room to see here. So having said that, I'm going to get to putting this belt on. Gonna sneak my ratchet in here so I can pry down on the tensioner. Release tension, slide the belt on, release your tool. Double check every single pulley at this point to make sure the belt is fully seated in all the ribs. It's centered up, which it is. All right, so at this point we can get our tool out of here. And that's it, belt is installed. Let's put this back, make sure it goes along the top of the radiator, and then the sides go around the AC condenser. This makes sure that all the air is directed into the coolers, not around them. I had some of the push clips missing, but just make sure you clip it in with any clips that you had. Let's put in the upper fan shroud now. I'm gonna slide it down on the driver's side first. There we go. Let's reconnect the upper radiator hose, slide it on, make sure that this tab lines up, and push it in all the way. The slot in here, if you look closely, it lines up. So take that metal clip and put it right back in. It should seat itself down all the way like this. If it doesn't go down, that means the hose isn't fully seated, and as soon as it builds pressure, it's going to pop right off, if not leak right off the bat. So make sure it's in all the way and the clip seats itself down. Let's reattach this here, put the bolt back in, and tighten it up. Okay, now let's reattach the upper to the lower fan shroud. So as you can see on each side, there's a mounting bolt right there. I'm going to start with this one because it lines up perfectly. Nice and snug. Get the top one in. And let's do the other side. Okay, so this one was a little trickier. Just stick a pry bar in here and kind of guide that lower shield in place, the lower fan shroud. All right, just make sure it's nice and tight. Do the same to the top one. Now bring the power steering reservoir up, and remember it has to slide up more than you think it needs to, because it has to hook into the fan shroud down there. Tighten it up.
Now let's fill up the cooling system, remove the cap off of your overflow, and pour in manufacturer's specified fluid. If you don't know what that is, check your owner's manual. You'll notice that there's a cold fill range right here. This is what you're aiming for. So add coolant until you get to right about here, and then I'll run you through the bleeding procedure. Okay, as you can see, the level rose to right at the top of the full line, the cold full line that is, and I want to leave it here, not at the minimum of the fill, because there is still air in the system. As you can see, it's actively bubbling through this hose. So I'm going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. I'm going to clean up my mess, whatever I spilt here. I'll check it again, and then we will run the vehicle. If you wanted to help the process along, you can massage the radiator hoses. As you can see, every time I do that, it bubbles up a lot. Now let's turn the truck on, turn the ignition to the on position, wait for the glow plugs to cycle, and there we have it, we're good to go. Perfect, starts right up. Now we want to come over to the HVAC controls, put the heat all the way on high, blower on medium, and we'll make it blow on the vents. That way I can feel the heat coming through as it warms up. We want to make sure that we get heat in the cab. If there is no heat coming in through the cab, that means your heater core still has air in it. Obviously, pay attention to your temperature gauge. It's not going to put out any heat until it warms up. But if you don't have heat in your cab and it's fully warmed up, you have air in the system. So shut the truck off, let it sit. Maybe do another bleed procedure after that, and the air should go away. Pay attention to your coolant level. Right now it's here at the minimum line of the cold fill. Obviously, as it heats up, it's going to rise up. If you wanted to leave the cap open, go ahead, do it now while the engine's cold. Once it runs for 5 or 10 minutes, do not touch that cap, don't open it. It will be under pressure. Relieving the pressure will sometimes help push the air out, not always though. And once we shut it off and it's at full operating temperature, we'll come back here and make sure that the level hasn't dropped too far. If it has, we'll top it back off. All right, at this point, I have plenty of heat coming through the vents. It is not warmed up fully, but I am inside in a garage, so I'm gonna shut it off, pull it outside, take it for a test drive, make sure it gets nice and warm, and then come back and check the coolant level. So at this point, you can go ahead and take it for a road test, and you should be all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.